Hey, romance writers. It's Morgan, the big haired librarian from Mid-Continent Public Library, coming to you live from an actual library. We are on day 2 of Romance Genre Con, and this year we're all about business. That's right. Put your safety belt on. It's time to get serious about your business. I want to consume those books, but you got to get them to me. So tonight we've got a special treat for you. We have got Danny from Elysian Nightfall Studios and Jacques from the Audio Flow. They are here to tell you all about how to do your own audiobook. Now I got to tell you, 3 months ago I didn't know Jacques and Danny, and my life was sadder. But we know them now. We're bringing them to you, and the reason we are is because we've got this great friend up in Minnesota, and she writes romance, and her sales were kind of. She was like, "Why does nobody like my book?" And then one day we noticed on Facebook, our author friend was so excited because her sales had gone through the roof. It's because she made an audiobook with Danny and Jacques, and we know someone who has benefited from their expertise. And let me tell you what, people, this book is hot. This audiobook will change your life. In fact, if you have an electric car, do not listen to this audiobook in your car. People will look at you funny because it's that hot. So, just to review, yesterday we had perfect librarian Beth Atwater from Johnson County Public Libraries talking about how you can sell the library your book. Tomorrow we've got Elizabeth Essex, everyone's favorite Victorian nautical romance writer. She's going to be talking to you about how to get your characters to reveal themselves. And then today we're doing audiobooks. So everybody, look out for the survey link at the end of the program. This is grant funded, and we'd really appreciate your support, as well as telling us what else you want to see next. And without further ado, people, it's time for Jacques and Danny to tell us all about audiobooks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I almost forgot what our actual subject was called, Beyond the Pages, Maximizing Your Reach Through Audio. My name is Jacques, and I am the owner of the Audio Flow. And next to me, to my right, maybe your left, is Danny. So Danny, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniele Lanzarotta, and I'm the owner of Elysian Nightfall Studios. And I also do the post-production for the Audio Flow, and I create video content to help you market your book.
Well, awesome. So it looks like we have a whole 2 hours to spend with you. We won't keep all of your time, but I would love for us to just kind of jump right in and talk a little bit about audio, the difference between using a production company and a do-it-yourself method, and why we believe that you should use audiobooks to maximize your reach and connect with fans that you did not know existed. So if we can go to the first slide, that would be great. What's the T? So the new love language to me is audio. In today's digital age, audiobooks have increasingly become a large part of the publishing industry. With Audible and other retailers, busy enthusiasts can enjoy their favorite books in audio format. And if you're like me, you still enjoy holding an actual book. I don't think that's ever going to change. People like to hold books and smell books and smell the paper and turn the page or use your Kindle or your iPad. But there's something about, because we're always moving, that makes audio so appealing to people, especially millennials and those of us who commute for work. So we're going to touch bases on that and why you should consider audiobooks. Next slide, please. Today's agenda. We're going to define what an audiobook is. It seems to be self-explanatory, but I always like to give some type of textbook definition for that. What are the benefits of audio? Counting the cost, because that's usually the first thing people will ask, is how much it's going to cost me. Time is money, and money is important. First person POV, duet, and dual, which is better? That's fun. Tips for a successful project: do it yourself versus outsourcing, and marketing your project. Next slide, please. So what is an audiobook? An audiobook is simply kind of what it says. It's a recording of a book or a magazine being read aloud. Typically recorded on a cassette tape, CD, vinyl, or digital. Now, back in the day, they used to just be called books on tape. Some of you may be familiar with that. I kind of date myself with that, saying books on tape. Even if you think about things like, I had a Teddy Ruxpin, and that teddy bear used to kind of read to me. Those are things that are also considered voiceover. I also had a little colorful record player that had these red and green and yellow records that I would play. Again, those are considered audiobooks. It just came in a different format. You don't really see a lot of audiobooks on vinyl these days. One, because the content is very large. So trying to fit, a 5 or 6 hour book on a vinyl is going to be very expensive. And a lot of people don't have record players. Also, you don't see a lot of people putting their books on cassette tape, because I can't tell you the last time I've seen a cassette tape, or a CD, because I don't own a CD player. I don't know about you. So the digital format is the most popular way for audiobooks to be published, because they can be downloaded and listened to in various devices that you have with you, including in your car. Next slide, please. What are some of the benefits of audiobooks? Audiobooks are not just entertainment, but for those who are visually impaired or face disabilities that impact sight. Also includes veterans, seniors, and persons with dyslexia. Just a little short story. I started listening to audiobooks in 2016, and I know that wasn't too long ago. When I first started listening to them, I was a little, what's the word? I wasn't all that excited about it, because I was in that circle where I just wanted to read the book and hear the characters in my own voice. I didn't want to hear somebody else tell me a story. But I tested it out and I fell in love with it. In 2019, I had an issue with my vision where I lost sight in my right eye. And it was at that particular moment where my thoughts changed about audiobooks. It became more than just some way to entertain myself or be able to pass time away while I'm commuting to work or walking my dog. It was a necessity, because at that particular point, I couldn't read. And if I could read something, it was very difficult. It had to be extra large font. It had to be on a black background. So these are some things that you want to consider as a reason of why you should think about going into audiobooks, because there are people who depend on the oral interpretation versus the visual. It's not something that they prefer. It's something that they need. And I believe that every story should have the capability and the ability to be heard. Next slide, please. Audiobooks also allow you to reach a new demographic of readers. Now, it says readers on there, but listeners do not like to be grouped in the same category as a reader. In fact, if you call a listener a reader, they will tell you that they're listeners. Although there's been a back and forth with people saying, if you listen to an audiobook, is it really reading? I'm not going to entertain that. I'm going to let you decide that. But this is a way that you can reach people, again, like I said, who may not have the time to actually pick up a physical book or go and download the ebook. You'll also find that it's very entertaining. So there are fans out there that actually have groups. There's groups of people who all they do is listen to audiobooks. And if your book is only in a print or ebook format, think about the potential that you're missing out on reaching those people. And I will tell you, because you're here and we're talking about romance, there are a lot of romance audiobook listeners. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Next slide, please. Audiobooks are easily and readily available for the busy consumer. Again, like I said earlier, you will see the influx, even if you commute to work or if you work out, you'll see that people are now moving away a little bit from the television. They always have earbuds in their ears. They're listening to something, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast or something very similar to that. It's for people who are always on the go. Now, even though in 2020, a lot of people didn't do too much traveling, you'll see later on in the statistics that audiobook listenership did increase, as well as audiobook sales, specifically in certain genres, including romance. So you want to make sure you're reaching those people who are very busy, who may not have the time to leisurely sit down and read a book. But what better way for them to be entertained by your words than having someone with a very sensual voice tell your story? Next slide, please. Audiobooks increase your visibility in a market saturated by digital media. Again, everything that we see is pretty much digital. There aren't, even when you go to the store, you see the magazine rack. A lot of people aren't purchasing magazines. They can easily go online and download it or look at it. You can even now go to Audible and be able to get some of those news stories in an audio format. So again, our entire world right now is saturated by digital media. And so you don't want to be left behind with only having your content available in one or two formats. Really consider what your other opportunities are and jump right in because it's just going to continue to move forward. Next slide, please. And they're fun. This is like my favorite reason. Audiobooks are so fun. Not just when you are putting the project together yourself or with a production company, but really getting to understand the appeal. For me, I love the liberal arts. I love going to plays. I love theater and those type of things. I remember, okay, I'm not that old, but radio dramas. If any of you ever remember radio dramas or even spoofs of radio dramas, it's very similar to that, depending on which POV, and we'll get to that in a second. But just being able to have someone look at your script and perform it for you is so thrilling. There are so many of my clients who doing certain sex scenes, they say, I can't listen to that. I can't believe I wrote that. But everything else they're really excited about. But it's so much fun to be able to hear the fans, see what they're saying about your book when you select a narrator who performs your words. It's nothing like that feeling. I wrote a short story a couple years ago, and one of my favorite performers, Joe Raylan, narrated it for me, and it was nothing. It was the best feeling ever to be able to have someone take what I wrote and interpret it and perform it for me. So audiobooks are fun. They're the way to go. And let's go to the next slide. Counting the cost. I mentioned this earlier because audiobooks are an investment, and that's usually the first thing someone will come to me and ask me, how much is it going to cost me to have this audiobook created? It's not cheap. I will tell you that it's not going to be $50 or anything like that. And I always tell people to think about it the same way that you created your book content. During that, there are several phases that you have to go through outside of you doing the bulk of the work in writing, but you also have to have an editor who will go in and make sure that everything looks good. You will have a formatter who makes sure the book cover looks nice. You'll have a graphic designer who will make sure the outside looks nice. And then you're going to have probably maybe a content editor. You've got the publisher. And so all of those things play a factor. It's the same way with audiobooks. there are multiple people that are involved in that process. And I'm going to ask if someone can put this rate up for me, just so you can have an idea about what it could potentially cost you on the low end of an audiobook. The best way for you to figure out how much to estimate your book on the low end of the cost is $250 an hour per finished hour. And I'll get to that. What you would do is look at the total word count of your project, of your manuscript, and you would divide that by 9,300. 9,300 is the estimated amount of words that one person can read or narrate in 1 hour. That will tell you how long the book is estimated to be. Then you will multiply that by how much it's going to cost you per finished hour. Per finished hour means the total runtime of your book. So it's not the amount of time someone's actually recording, it's the amount of time that finished project is. So just say for math purposes, because my math's not the best, let's say the book is 10,000. Okay, yeah, it's 10,000. It's 10,000 words. And I'm going to divide that by 9,300. And so we're estimating it's probably going to be a little bit over an hour. And I'm going to multiply that times 250, if that's what I'm saying it's going to cost. So you would be looking at somewhere about $250 to $260 for that 1 hour of audio. It can go up to $600 and $600 per finished hour. So just so you have a little bit of information, that's something that you can think about when you're counting the cost and deciding if going into audio is something you want to do, or if you want to plan for it and maybe start a budget. Next slide, please. Budget what you can afford. Don't sacrifice quality for a cheap narrator. I know that sounds really bad. This is a disservice to you and your listeners. Know all your options before you decide. And the reason why I say this is there is a platform called ACX, and a lot of indie authors generally start there when they are looking to a do-it-yourself production of their audiobook. And a lot of people used to use what is called a royalty share, or they will look for the lowest cost somebody will charge per finished hour. Now, you can go that route with a royalty share. However, a lot of veteran narrators and those who have been through processes where their quality is good, they're working with an editor to make sure that you're getting the best work, may not come out to the best of your advantage, because it's that old adage, you get what you pay for. And that's kind of the thing. So if someone is telling you they're going to charge you $50 per finished hour, or even $100 per finished hour, really think about that, because if they're narrating it, that means they probably are not hiring an editor or somebody to go in and master the levels and remove all the background noise and the different things that Daniele, who I love more than life, will be able to go and do for your book. So, and also listeners don't like that. So no matter how much you think you just want to get the book out, because people keep asking, are you going to put this on audio? Make sure you take the time and select someone who's going to be the perfect voice for your book and is going to provide the best quality. There's a question. Marie says, can I ask who your favorite narrator is? I'm always looking to find great narrators to follow. Okay, so people ask me that question, and then I feel bad because I'll leave somebody out. So I don't know if I want to mention that, but I will tell you some of the people that we've worked with are just stellar. So as far as, and a lot of them are not on all of social media. So let me think. I love Aaron Mallon. I love Wesley Siobhan. I'm a big fan of Jason Clark, Teddy Hamilton, Zachary Weber, of course, Connor Crace, who's fairly new, but we've worked with him a lot as well. Emma Wilder, Virginia Rose, Stephanie Rose, Stephanie Bentley. Gosh, I'm probably going to leave somebody out. Melissa Moran is one of my favorites. She did a YA book that I fell in love with. Amy Deutschler, who we've been working with a lot. I absolutely love her voice. Sebastian York, who's the unicorn, who's not on any social media. So unfortunately, you can't follow him. But you can go to my Facebook page or my Twitter page and you can follow everybody there. So you'll know who I enjoy listening to. Thank you for the question. This is my favorite part because a lot of people have moved into duet or multicast, and I didn't put multicast up there, narration. And I just want you guys to hear a couple clips that are going to describe the difference. Basically, your book almost decides what POV or what production style you want to go with. Mostly books are written, romance are written in dual POV, most of them, where it's alternating between the two characters. And in that chapter, each person reads all or narrates all of the characters in that chapter. Well, you'll hear in this clip some things that are a little bit different. And after we hear the clip, I'll give you a little bit more information. So roll them.
Can I help you?
I turned to find a tall guy with his hair shaved real short staring at me.
Leaving now, London groaned.
Good,
Butch said.
make sure your phone is charged.
So, does she think that's a carrot in your pocket? Because it sounds like you're not that happy to see her.
Griffin had never seen a woman in a cocktail dress, holding a goat. He supposed it was likely that most men could say that.
I can't do this. You're a fucking tease.
And she was a temptress. She didn't even have to try. With each shift of her hips, shared glance and breathy sigh, the leash on my vow slipped that much further from my grasp.
It was destiny.
You must tell me all you know about my parents. I'd love to hear more.
She took his hand in hers and held it tight. With that simple gesture, Delancey would have given her anything she wanted.
Mama Brody. How was the show, sweets? I follow the hashtag Owen Brody on the tits and the Insta. The Twitter, whoops.
Pops Brody. Why don't you have another cocktail, Bonnie Lynn?
Dylan. Welp, now I know what I'll be talking about in therapy next week.
Oh, hush, you two. What I was saying, Owen, is that I'm seeing so many positive posts about you tonight.
Miles, for a change.
Now, what I love about this is I love the dynamic of the voices and that performers get a chance to kind of stretch themselves depending on which POV production that we do. So I'm going to start with duet because that's what's first listed there. As you will notice, in a duet narration, there was that sexy Irish accent and the other character. And so it's basically just what it says. It's when the book is prepped so that there's dialogue. So that particular book is called Heart of Eve, and it's written in the POV of the male. We made that a duet because we wanted to get the dynamic of what the female character would bring into the kind of angst and tumultuous stuff that's going on in that story. So we added her in just to do her dialogue. And so that's called a duet narration. It doesn't have to be written per se in the paperback version as a duet. But if you've got dialogue and you want to add a different character in there, a different voice to go where they're both talking to each other in a dialogue format, that's duet. Duet is just two narrators. A dual POV is like I mentioned earlier. It's when there's alternating POVs in the chapters. So chapter 1 may be Joe, and Joe is going to narrate everybody in his chapter. And you will hear that from the second clip that came in was a book that we did, and the female did every character in her chapter, and then the guy did every character in his chapter. And so it's basically following the outline of the manuscript. Then there is first person POV, which is the first clip that we heard. And it's where there's one narrator who narrates the entire book. That means they're performing for every character, male, female, dog, cat. We've had those too. Children, they do it all. And sometimes that is a preference if it's just that person's POV and there's not a lot of dialogue. And sometimes it just flows better and it works out that way. That first clip I actually wanted to do as a duet, and it just didn't work out. So we kept it as is, as a single POV. Then we have multicast, which I didn't put up here. The first clip for the multicast is from TJ London's book, The Traitor, which was book 2 in the Rebels in Red Coat saga. And you only heard 2 of the characters, but total there are 6 performers in that actual book. And so it's kind of like a play. Each one has their own dialogue. And if there's scenes together, you will hear each one of them narrate that particular character, and it's all put together. Very similar to what you heard in the last clip, which is a Funny Business by Kaylee Loring, which is releasing tomorrow, where she has 6 narrators performing that book, and they're all doing a text. They're texting each other. So you get to hear each one of them perform their character. Multicasts have become more popular, I believe, since the pandemic, because it used to be in order to have a duet book or a multicast book, all of the narrators needed to record in the studio together, and you would have to pay each person the full finished hour of the book, and it was very expensive. But due to technology, some creative ways, and some amazing engineers and editors, we've got it down to a science that we've been able to produce duet and multicast projects without doing that, and still saving you some money along the way to get that full effect. Next slide, please. Tips for a successful do-it-yourself or outsourced project. I have 7 tips that I would like to go over with you. And this is just to help you out in case you decide that you would like to produce an audiobook yourself, or you would like to hire a producer to help you along the way. Tip number 1, listen to other audiobooks in your genre. Now, I know that there are some authors who write in a specific trope in romance, and they don't read other books, especially when they're writing, because they want to make sure that they're keeping their minds and thoughts clear to be able to get everything out. However, in your downtime, make sure that you pick up a couple books that are similar in style to your book. If it's a second chance romance book, pick up an audiobook that says Second Chance Romance and listen to the narration style. It's not so much that you are doing that so that your narrator, whoever you choose, will sound just like them, but so you can get an idea of what that vibe and that chemistry should sound like in the book. Especially if you are not a big audiobook listener, that is going to help you a lot, is to listen to a couple of those books so you'll know what you like and what you don't like. Next slide, please. Select a platform or a producer. This is going to be important whether or not you do it yourself or you hire a production company. There are several platforms that allow you to be able to produce your audiobook yourself. I mentioned it earlier. ACX is the audio version of Kindle Direct Publishing. You can go there and you can source for a narrator, place your book there and receive auditions, or you can talk directly to a narrator, hire them, receive your files, and upload them there. Also, there's Findaway Voices, there's Authors Republic, and there's also Spoken Realms, and those are the 4 that I know of right now where you can actually produce the book yourself and upload it directly to a platform for distribution. Hiring a producer is kind of twofold. Narrators also consider themselves as producers because they will both narrate the book and make sure that they take care of all of the editing, the proofing, and the mastering of your file, and then provide that to you so that you can upload it to your preferred platform, or you can hire a production company. So shameless plug, the Audio Flow. You can hire the Audio Flow or any other production company where they can go in and handle all of the work for you. And that is from casting, that is, we handle proofing, prepping, everything that you need from start to finish. That is what a production company will do for you. Tip 3, select an audition script. Now, since you have decided that you're going to hire a company or you're going to do it yourself, the next thing is to make sure that you find the right audition script. I always recommend find something that is the climactic point of your book, something that the narrator must be able to hit on point with their performance that's going to let you know, yes, I want to hire them. You have an option to choose something that's up to 5 minutes. I say the best option is 2 to 3 minutes of audio, which is anywhere from 200 to 400 lines. 200 to 400 words. Because actually in the first few seconds, you'll know if that person is going to be a right fit or not. It really doesn't take 5 minutes to figure it out. But make sure you find the right script. If you're doing something where you're doing male, when you're doing a single POV, make sure that audition script has dialogue for the male or the female so that you know how that other person will be able to interpret that other character. If you have a book that has multiple characters, make sure you use an audition script for that so you'll know how they're going to come across with their interpretation of those characters. Next slide, please. Lead with your ears. Again, your ears are going to let you know if that's a good sound or not. I hate to say it, I've listened to some things and I just could not finish it for whatever reason. You just know right off the bat if that voice is going to be a right fit for your character. You wrote your characters, you know in your heart of hearts what you want them to sound like. I will tell you that they will not sound like the voices in your head because that's your voice in your head. But being able to allow your performer to have some creative ability to take that and interpret it, but you can also give them feedback. But lead with your ears and don't always go with the first voice you hear. Give it time, listen to all of the auditions, and then you will know instantly which one is the right one. Next slide, please. Select the perfect narrator. So now you've led with your ears, you've got the perfect script, and now you want to select your narrator. This is the most exciting part, even for me, working in casting. I love when I get to select that person. I always listen to the scripts, the auditions with my eyes closed. I tell anybody if I can stay awake with my eyes closed, they've done an amazing job because I've been engaged with wanting to hear their performance and what they have to say. Make sure it's somebody that is going to carry your words and treat them with respect and care, and that your listeners, your new listeners and fans and readers, if you convert them, are going to enjoy it and want to hear it. It should also be something that you're going to love. So once you hire that perfect narrator, you're on your way. Next slide, please. Support your narrator. This also goes with marketing. Danielle will cover this a little bit later. But if you're working directly with your narrator as a do-it-yourself project, make sure you're following them on all of social media if they're available. I think Marie had mentioned about following narrators. Definitely do that. You will find that it's a very tight community. If someone is performing your book, they're going to go out and advertise it. A lot of narrators have a fan base. So the more that they're drumming up buzz for your book and you're following them and inviting them possibly to come into your reader group and do a live read or something like that, it's a collaboration, and it takes it's a collaborative effort for all of us to work together. So definitely support your narrator any way that you can. The book is coming out. Follow them, tag them, do all the things. Next slide. The fourth one was Authors Republic. Promote and market your work. And this is part of my segue into the marketing portion of this presentation. You've got to market your audiobook. A lot of people will say, I want to do audio, but how do I market? It's the exact same way that you market your book. You have to cross promote. So if your book is out, you always want to share, my book audio is coming soon to audio, summer 2022. As soon as you know it's coming, you've even thought about doing it, start talking about it. Word of mouth is the freest. It's free, and it's the best marketing that you can use on the planet. It spreads like wildfire. So you want to start marketing your book as soon as you can. If your book is on sale, your ebook is on sale, and you have an audiobook or it's going to audio, make sure you create some graphic for that as well. Always, always, always market audio everywhere that you go. Be sure that you join Facebook groups that speak specifically to audiobook listeners. There's a ton of them. Send me an email later. I'll let you know what they are. And there are many of them that are specific to genre. The largest audiobook group for romance is called Aural Fixation. AURAL Fixation. It's been around since 2016. They have, I think, 12,000 members, and it constantly grows. The authors are there, the narrators are there, and the listeners, and they're hungry and greedy for more romance audiobooks. Next slide, please. And tip number 8, have fun. I always say this because everything that you do should be fun. It should be encompassing. You should get joy and pleasure out of it. If something starts to become stressful, that's when you walk away. But audio is fun. And the reason why it's important to have a network of people is so that you don't have to stress and you don't have to go at this alone. I know I missed my banner, but I'm just going to go ahead and mention this really quickly. If you can post up that information about the survey, more than 71,000 audiobooks were published in 2020. I mentioned that it's a 39% growth from 2019. So even though we had COVID last year, you will see that there was an increase in audiobooks because people weren't getting out. And people needed to have a connection with somebody. And it was just basically having a connection with somebody performing and speaking directly to them. Audiobooks to me are considered an intimate experience. You're having an intimate experience with that performer for 6 to 12 hours, depending on how big the book is. The daily reach of audiobook consumption has grown 71%. So that tells you a lot. Back in 2016, I believe that audiobooks were being produced and published, but a lot of people were not listening to them as much. So you'll see that there's been an increase just in audio, in the audio industry. Like I said, also including podcasts. And then the last part that I wanted to mention is that audiobooks are relaxing for people. During stressful times, people have found themselves enjoying an audiobook they never thought they would listen to. I have found genres that I didn't think that I would enjoy, but because I follow certain narrators and authors, I just went down a happy trail and just decided to pick up different books. from those particular narrators, and I found them through maybe one author and just continue to follow. And also, last thing that I wanted to mention is that what was the last? I had one more up here that I wanted to mention, and I can't remember what it is because, oh, thank you. The most popular audiobook genre continues to be mysteries, thrillers, suspense, but there was a sharp increase in interest for romance, self-help, and business genres. Romance, I thought, used to be the highest selling genre a couple years ago, but there's always an increase. Every year we're seeing an increase for more audiobooks published and produced in the romance category, as well as the sales. It's just something about romance that people like, because it's not just the same HEA, but also when people incorporate other genres into it and add a little romance to it, it still constitutes a romance book. So don't be left out in the cold. Definitely take a jump and a leap of faith. And I hope that you will take this information and decide that audio is ready for you and you're ready for audio. And we're going to roll on to marketing with Danny from Elysian Nightfall Studios.
Hi, everyone. So let's talk marketing. So you have this great audiobook, and now you want to get the word out there and get your return on investment back. I just wanted to add a little bit more about me. In addition to doing post-production for the audio flow and create video content marketing, I'm also an author. So I know the challenges of marketing a book. Now, for the past 2-3 years, for every book that I released, which is usually two to three books a year, I've made my investment back through audio for both print, ebooks, for everything, because it's a huge marketing out there. So audiobooks, opening the doors to new marketing opportunities. You have that sound clip, that sound with your character's voice, and that's huge. That's something that you can use over and over again in a number of different ways. So I'm going to be sharing a couple of tips on how you can do that. Some of the things that about marketing, Jock already touched on, but I'll be expanding on a little bit. So a new target audience, and also an old one in ways. Chances are that you already have that built-in target audience, because a lot of readers, sometimes they don't have free time to read, but they'll listen to audiobooks in the car, at the gym, and even at work, thanks to Bluetooth headphones. So you have them right there, and then you have, the target audience that you can reach through Facebook groups. The community for audiobook listeners is huge on Facebook. There, like Jock mentioned, there are a lot of groups. Now, my favorite way to connect with the audience besides those groups is through the collaboration with narrators. You have the seasoned narrators who already have the target audience built in. So if you're writing in a category that they release audiobooks on over and over again, they'll have people that'll one-click the book, no matter what it is, just because they love those narrators. A lot of narrators, both new or seasoned, there's so many new narrators out there too. They will help you by creating behind-the-scenes content that we're going to be sharing here in a little bit. They can do videos of them narrating, and that helps them grow their brand, and it helps you get the word out there too. And next slide, please. Now, the promotional content that we're talking about, that's one of the biggest challenges that people face, is having that content to share, and the fact that a lot of times they don't like to be live on video. And I'm like that too. I usually just hide behind the cameras, but there are so many ways that you can do that and get the word out there without you having to be in front of the screen. So one of the ways is casting announcements. And this doesn't have to be a big production. It helps you create a buzz early on, helps get people excited about the book that's coming out. You can target the narrators, their cast, and their fans are going to start following you. And this is something that you can do, a live announcement, or if you like hiding behind the cameras, you can do something a little different, like this cast announcement video that we did for The Trader by TJ London. Video, please.
Ellis, someone has to worry about you. We may be brothers, but John's tastes were always lower class. Do you know where he is?
He was always kind to me, unlike most of the men who frequented Mrs. Allen's house.
Women. They're rather vexing in the daytime. It's their company at night that a man can't do without. I say, it makes me wonder why I spend my nights bunking with a bunch of sailors, as opposed to being at home, pleasantly diverted by my warming pan.
All right, next slide, please. Now we have the audio teasers. These are so easy to make and fun, and listeners love them. There is a website called headlinerapp.com, and you can just upload the clip that you want to use, the cover for your audio, and create them. And let's play the video, please.
A penny for your thoughts, I tell Becca. I trace the tattoo on her back as she rests her head against my chest, and damn, I think to myself, how did I get so lucky? She moves her head up, rests her chin on my chest, and smiles.
But I wish I could take this yacht and disappear. Just never come back.
I grin. Would you take me with you?
I wouldn't have it any other way,
she says without missing a beat. I wish we could, I admit, but they would find us, and I'm not saying that just because Jones would want his yacht back. She sighs.
Yeah, I know.
She pauses and holds on to me even tighter.
For right now, I'd just be happy to not have to leave this bed until that absurd dinner we have to go to later.
I chuckle. I could most definitely keep you in bed all day.
All right, it's coming soon videos. So that's another one that helps hype up the book release. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this when we play the book trailers later on, but we'll go ahead and play the video for this one now.
Darkness and pain. Well, not exactly pain per se. Significant discomfort might be a more accurate description. Where am I? Am I in a dungeon? That Netflix show had a whole bunch of BDSM. A dungeon with whips, chains, leather, various toys. So naturally your mind would go there. Again, you consider the very real possibility you're dreaming. That must be it. I'm dreaming.
So next slide, please. Now, the behind the scenes videos, this is where a lot of collaboration can happen. I have an author that released an audiobook a while back, and she's constantly promoting it. And right now, she is talking to the narrator about possibly doing a live thing where the readers will ask listeners will ask questions directly to the characters, and the narrator is live answering the questions in the characters' voices. And then we have the behind the scenes where the narrators are recording themselves through video, doing the narration and sharing on social media. And here's an example of it. Video, please.
McAllister didn't wait for me to argue, and I trudged across the boarded walkway behind him, listening to the water crash against the pilings. It didn't sound calm, and we were in the Cape. It'd be worse out in open water. At least this boat was bigger than Vance's. McAllister stepped out of his shoes and pulled off his socks, tossing them one by one into the basket beside the gangway that led to a large, white sailboat. It had a teak deck and a sleek design that made it look fast, even when it was tied down. It bobbed in the water, and the gangway creaked with the rise and fall, making my stomach churn. "I don't know if this is a good idea," I said. He set a hand on the railing and leaned closer to me, just past the edge of what was a professional amount of space between employer and employee.
And I see, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And I see a question from Morgan Perry. Those videos are awesome, but I'm intimidated. They look beyond my skills. Is there a beginner place? Yes, there are some websites like promos.com. I think I'm not sure now if it's promo.com or promos.com. I can look it up and post it in the chat a little bit later. But they're super budget friendly and user friendly too, where you can choose the clips. And yeah, Jock just posted it. You can choose the video content that you want to use and add text and music and everything else and just export the video. You can also outsource. Me personally, I know that there's a lot of these things just cost money. So I like to keep things as budget friendly as possible. And it's a good way to start. Something like the behind the scenes videos coming soon. And those videos for basically that you're using to promote before the book release. You can do them even on TikTok, and I'm going to go a little into that a little bit later on. But something like the book trailers, I would make the extra investment on that just because that's something that you can use over and over again throughout the years. And we're going to do a sample for a book trailer now. Video, please.
Oh, I'm close, I whisper, feeling my body surrender to the drunken pleasure. He kisses me so hard I struggle to breathe. A current of alcohol flows through my brain. The ecstasy of it all is too much. I have to let go. A wave explodes inside me, rippling throughout my entire being, and I let it out. Oh, Jake. Kyle's hips freeze, as if hitting the pause button on a movie.
What did you say?
Huh? I open my eyes, and even in the dark, I can tell my husband has a very disturbed look on his face.
You just called me Jake.
My cheeks feel beet red, and I slap my hand over my mouth. Oh, no, I didn't.
And just to add a little bit to that before we go to into where to share that content, a lot of times when you're listening to the audiobook, it's like you have a movie playing in your head in a way. So you get ideas like, oh, this would be a really cool clip if I had a scene of this happening. So those ideas kind of just come to you. But I'm also always here on social media if you need to reach me with questions about the best ways to create those videos. Now that you have this content, where to share it. Now, TikTok is the golden child of social media right now. So many authors are having huge success with it. And I'm going to be honest, the first time that I got on TikTok, I felt a lot like this picture, even though I work with this stuff all the time. If you haven't seen this is the movie Never Been Kissed, where Drew Barrymore is a journalist that goes back to high school, and she knows she feels completely out of place. And TikTok can be an intimidating place until you actually start, posting the content out there. And all of the content that we just shared, those are things that you can easily share on TikTok, especially now that they increased where you can post videos that are up to 3 minutes long. Now, one of the questions that people have is which account type should I start, creator or business account? There are two main differences between these two. The creator accounts, you can basically use any music available. Now, technically, those types of music should not be used for business purposes like marketing a book. And, it's really not worth taking the risk of doing that when you have music that's properly licensed to be used under the business account type. Now, another big benefit of the business account type is that you can put your website or your Amazon link right at the profile page. So, if people come across your books on TikTok, they can just click on the profile and go straight to it. So, it makes it easy for people to get to your books. And another benefit is the reach. The reach with TikTok is being insane. Where, Facebook, they'll limit how many people are seeing your posts unless you boost. And TikTok, they're not doing that, at least not yet. So you can post a video and, get hundreds, thousands of views in a day. Now, to maximize that, I would recommend doing this author pods. Basically, a group of authors, they'll go and they'll comment on each other, comment and like each other's posts on TikTok, and that really helps with visibility. There is a Facebook group called Authors of TikTok on Facebook, and there are people that will do that right there. Every day you can go and post your link, and they will comment, they will interact with whatever you post, and that will help visibility. Next slide, please. Now, maximizing your reach. Through other social media, through YouTube, you can post those videos there. Through Facebook, Twitter, you can just click the share button. From TikTok, and it'll go straight there. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know about is that if you go to your Amazon Author Central, you can upload those videos right there, and they will show on your author page or on your sales page for your books. Next slide, please. Now, there are other ways that you can promote, which are the same things that you're doing for your book and your books. Newsletter, cross-promote, Clubhouse, and podcasts is a huge one because audiobook listeners also love listening to podcasts. So that is something that you can go on other podcasts and be interviewed about your book, or you can start your own podcast. And one example for that is author Kaylee Lauren. She just started a podcast called Multiple Eargasms. And right now, she's had a couple of narrators that narrated her last, the book that's coming out tomorrow, Funny Business. So it's something fun for the listeners and for the people who follow those narrators. And it's a really great way to cross-promote. Podcasts are usually distributed through Audible, iTunes, Spotify. So, it's more people listening about hearing your name and hearing about your books. Next slide, please. Maximizing your reach through reviews. So if you're distributing through ACX, you get so many codes to give to reviewers. There is a website called freeaudiobookcodes.com. You can just upload those codes there. They have a small fee. I believe it's under $15. And people will just claim the codes. I recommend doing them all at once, because what happens is that when people claim those codes all at once, even though you're not getting paid for those downloads, it helps your Amazon and Audible ranking. So you can easily reach like one of the bestseller lists on Amazon by giving them out. And that's going to help with visibility for your books, for your audiobooks. And just one more thing, with the ALCs, you can, like with the audio flow, we can give out the files to reviewers, and it's an easy way to get them to review the book, like on the day that it comes out. And for some reason, it's so much easier to get people to leave reviews for audiobooks than it is for them to leave reviews for, ebooks and paperbacks. So that's another great benefit there. The next slide, please. All right, so we're going to open to questions, and then we're going to have a little giveaway after that.
I just posted some things in the chat too for people who would want to go back. I did fluffle on one of those websites. So don't pay attention to freeaudiobooks.com. Don't go there. Don't go there. How long does it typically take to record an audiobook from start to finish? That is always going to depend on who is selected to narrate the book, how long the book is, and what the availability is of that person. Some narrators are part-time, some are full-time. Full-time narrators, if they are performing a book that's about maybe 8 hours or so, they can do it in one day. We did a multicast. It was the fastest project we've ever done. We did a multicast book. It was 70,000 words. And each one of the persons recorded their sections in a day and got it back to us. Our turnaround time was 3 days with proofing and everything. So it really just depends. That's an important thing to ask if you're doing a do-it-yourself production, is to ask your narrator if they'll be able to meet your deadline and how long it would take for them to complete the project. On average, most people will take about a week, about 5 days to complete that for recording. And then, of course, it goes to the proofing and then return in the prep. So completing an entire book, if we're looking at that timeline, could possibly take about 3 weeks on the low end, 3 weeks to 3.5 weeks. What's the longest audiobook that I have found that I've listened to myself or that we've put together? I think the longest book we've done so far, right, is The Trader.
Yeah.
That's like what, 16? How many hours is that book?
Yeah, it was about 16 hours, I think.
Yeah, 16, maybe 18. It might be 18 hours. It's pretty. All of TJ's books are pretty long. The next book is 205,000 words. So we're edging on, 20 hours or so. So that's the longest to date for us is 18 hours. Do listeners have a preferred length? According to the Audio Publishers Association survey, it says that listeners are listening to more shorter titles than they were before. Generally, most people prefer to listen to a book that's at least 5 to 6 hours long or longer just because of the cost. But
most of them end up being between 4 and 6 hours.
Yeah. But according to the survey, there was an increase in people purchasing or listening to books that were between 2 and 3 hours. It really just depends. Like I like short books because I like to get through it and get to the next one. And then some people like to listen to 40-hour books. It just works for them, I guess. How much would it, thanks. How much would it cost to produce an audiobook? How much would you have to charge on Audible for a 120,000 word book? Okay, just so you know, if you are distributing through Audible, you do not get to set your price for the book. However, they do have a pretty much of a range based off of your length of the book and the genre of your book, and they will price it accordingly. So if it's a romance book, 120,000 words is probably about 12.5 to 13 hours. Then you would probably be looking at something in between the $24.95 to $29.95 range, somewhere in there. But again, it's based off of other books that's in that category, but it's going to be on the, I guess, the this end of the spectrum versus the $13.95 to $19.99. And if it's a newer book, it might be a little bit less, like 21 something if you're a member, because members pay less than people who don't have Audible memberships. This is also going to tell you how much it's going to cost you. So your book is 120,000 words. You were going to divide that. You're actually going to, divide that by 9,300 and multiply it by however much is going to cost you per finished hour. And we just use $250 because in ACX, that's the minimum rate for a union narrator. They can't do any books lower than $250 an hour. You guys made me drink all my water. I'm thirsty. How many narrators are people of color? Is there a database dedicated to finding narrators of color, perhaps even boosting newcomers? I know there are lists for literary agents of color, for example. That's a great question. So I actually started an imprint last year called Nubian Audio. I think we're coming up on our anniversary. So it's been a year since we've been around, and the diversity in the industry has increased a lot. You will see If you go to social media, that there's Amplify Black Voices, AA actors, Black narrators. As far as there is a website. I cannot think of it, but I'll come back and post it later, of where there's a list of narrators that are people of color. Also, the Audio Publishers Association, if you were a member, there is diversity initiatives there, where we are looking to increase the amount of performers that we have that fit the BIPOC identifiers. I have my own list. I'm not going to share it because I'm a producer. But we do work with narrators of color, and we are always looking for books that have content so that they're able to portray those characters as authentically as possible. Have you been following the Audible Gate information? Not trying to stir up trouble, but it is a concern for authors and narrators, and I love to hear producers. Does this have to do with the return policy, or is it something else? If you can just type it there, then I can tell you what my idea is about that. We'll come back to your question, Katie. What kind of equipment? Okay. What kind of equipment, software, media file requirements would you need to narrate our own books? If this is really long and involved, can you point me to sites that would help with this information? Danielle, you want to?
Yeah, for the software, I would recommend using Adobe Audition. But you can also start out with Audacity, which is a free software, and will do what you need to do to get started. For file requirements, we ask for raw, us personally ask for raw wavy files. Wavy files tend to retain the best quality possible, and then we'll just edit it from there.
Also, if you're looking to get information about how you can, now I have to go back and find where I was at, about how you can go about narrating your own audiobook. There's lots of things on YouTube for that. You can go to acx.com. They have different webinars that tell you how to get started. The main thing is not so much the equipment. The equipment is important, but it's really soundproofing your area so that you're absorbing the sound and you don't sound like me where it's bouncing off all of the walls. Because if it sounds like that and you're recording, it may not pass quality control through the distributors where you're going to publish the book. So I would check ACX. I would check YouTube.
I call it YouTube University. There's a lot of great information there.
Yeah, the other one is ACX University. So they do have information available for you to be able to do that. Okay, so Katie was asking about information about the returns policy. So there was this big uproar about Audible's return policy. It's not to stir the pot, because it was a big deal that you can just go back and return your books and you can get your credits. You know, there was really no limit on it. And then they changed it to, at some point was like, it has to be within a year. The reasons that you can return the book was just anything. Like, my dog ate my homework, I want to return the book. And the problem was that the rights holders were being penalized for that. And the money that was coming in as part of the royalties was being deducted from the next payment. So all these books that you receive payments for, then Audible was taking it back. Well, in March, they changed that policy because everybody was, well, I won't say everybody was in an uproar. People who were doing that weren't saying anything because they were just fine with returning the book like they were at the library. No pun intended, librarians. But they were just, people were buying the book and returning it after they listened to it and getting a credit back and using it for something else.
And that was impacting some narrators too, because some of them have royalty share.
Exactly. So I'm just going to, so this is what happened. Audible did a couple surveys. I actually was part of the soundboard, so I was able to participate in that. And they made a change. And the change took place in March. And it says, and let me see if this is the right one. I believe what I read was, if it's returned within 7 days, I think you're not penalized. Like they don't take the royalties. There's a time period where it has to be an eligible return, and even if it's returned, they don't take the money back from you. I think that good reasons for a return should be the reason for a return. I don't think that people should be able to listen to an entire book or halfway through the entire book and be able to return it. I don't think that's fair to the people that paid for that book. And it's not a library book. So, returning it after you listen to it and then exchanging it for another credit, I don't agree with that. Again, however, there was a big uproar about it. So Audible did make some policy changes to that. And I have not seen or heard a lot of people making comments about the new policy change. So I was against the, I can return my book at any point to stack up on credits. I just think that's foul. And when you try to explain that to people, you wouldn't go to the store and buy a dress. You go to this swanky party, you buy this nice dress, you wear the dress, and then you're going to go and take it back to the store. You wore it. You drank in it. You sweat in it. And then you're going to take it back and get your money back. No, you own that dress. Your sweat marks and your DNA is on it. You need to keep it. So, you tell people that. And some people, unfortunately, didn't care. Listeners didn't care. They said, well, that's not my, anyway. So to calm fears for authors, I will say that Audible did put something in place to try to alleviate that, where you're not receiving those penalties. And also just keep in mind that Audible is not the only place to distribute your book. I mean, it seems like the monopoly, but also kind of think about some other places that you can distribute and get your content out there.
Just got to find what's the best fit for you.
Exactly. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Where do I want to distribute my book?
And I see that Marie posted about the software, and yes, that is Audacity, Raw, and Wavy files. And if you have any questions about it, you're welcome to just message me through Facebook, and I can help you through that.
I love Audacity. It's like one of the easiest things to use, especially for editing. I'm not a big editor, but I can get in there and manipulate some things in there. It's very user-friendly. Most people who start narrating use Audacity. They don't progress into anything else unless they're going to go full-time, which is when they'll, go into some other software. So that is a good place to start. Yes, rewatch and take notes and share. As someone who can't sustain attention for listening to audiobooks, my brain just doesn't work that way. But I understand it does for a lot of people. Can you describe in words what qualities you generally look for in terms of narrators, pacing, emphasis, tonal levels, etc.? You want me to start, Danielle, or you want to start? Because you listen to a lot in your...
I can. So us personally, we're perfectionists, and if audiobooks is not for you, I would definitely recommend using a production company, because you have people on your side who do that legwork, people who proof the book, will listen to make sure that the pacing is okay. Tonal levels, a lot of that and emphasis, it depends on what type of book it is, whether it's a fiction, nonfiction, and so on.
Yeah, so it's two parts. So from the listener side, I totally understand what you're saying. When I first thought of when someone first gave me an audiobook, I thought the same thing. Like, it's not going to hold my attention. You know, you kind of feel like you have to be sitting there and not doing anything so you can focus and hear what's going on. Or do I have to rewind it back and I missed something at some point, which happens because our brains do that. We're always going 1,000 miles a minute. So we're never really just focusing on one thing. However, because I work specifically in casting, is what I mentioned a little bit earlier, is when I send an audition script and it comes back to me, I have to close my eyes, not because I'm sleepy, but because I need to be able to internally feel if that person is going to hold my attention. What I'm looking for pacing, it depends on the narrative of the story. If it's something that, you know, something with adrenaline is happening, can I hear it in their voice? They're running from somebody. Do they sound like they're exasperated, like they're trying to get away? Is it a sexy moment? Yeah. Oh God, I really loved how oh my God, he took. Now, did I feel that? Like, yeah, I felt that. So it's all about the pacing of the moment. That's what I'm looking for. As far as emphasis, you want to hear, again, whatever is happening in that story. This is why narrating a book is not just reading, it's performing, because they have to interpret what the author's intent was for what's happening in that story for that particular scene. They've got to know the character inside and out. So it's a lot that goes into that. I don't like monotone. So if somebody's just going to come in and they're going to do a cold read, and it's, as someone who can't sustain attention for listening to audiobooks, my brain, if they're going to do that, it's an instant no for me. And it's going to be an instant no for 99.999% of the listeners as well. And there has to be the right inflection. So if you think about television, it's the same way without the visual. When you're watching TV and you're like, man, they really nailed that performance. That's the same way it has to be with audio. They've got to be able to nail it. And normally it's just them in the booth doing it. So that was a great question. Can you publish in a non-Amazon place and use Audible? No. Well, technically, yes. Technically, you can't, no, because it's still going to go to Amazon. So what happens is Amazon, if you use, let's say, if you not Amazon, you mean your book? If you publish your book outside of Amazon, can you use Audible? Can you expound on that a little bit? Because I might have a couple different answers for that one. I just need to know if you mean if it's your ebook. If your ebook is published outside of Amazon, can it be? Okay. So if your ebook is not published, can you okay. If your ebook or your paperback is not on Amazon, then it's not going to be published on Audible. It has to be on Amazon. So if you are using ACX, you can't publish your book to Audible because ACX is only going to publish your book to Amazon, Audible, and Apple. It's only going those three places.
Now, are you self-publishing somewhere that distributes to Amazon? Because you can self-publish through Ingram. They get the book to Amazon, and then you can have your audio.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like the same company. So if it's a partner company, yes, then you can do that. But let's say you publish your book, you self-publish your book, and you're selling them in a local bookstore, and you want to have it on Audible. No, it needs to be on Amazon somewhere in some format, ebook or paperback. That's the love of Amazon and their conglomerate and monopoly. Now, Jax, you already been outside. Did we answer everything? Amazon doesn't do hardback, so looking. Well, actually, who prints Who prints hard?
Ingram
Yeah.
does, because I have like my last book title, for example, I have the hardback through Ingram, and then I have the paperback through Amazon, and the audio is going to come through Amazon. So as long as you have one format through Amazon, whether it's paperback or ebook, then you can do the audiobook.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple. If you've got your digital files, to just go through KDP and upload the digital the ebook copy just so you can do the audiobook, that's fine too. So you've got options. Unless you're going through a distributor and or a publisher and they're going to do it for you. But that's the easiest way around it, is having a KDP account and just uploading your ebook there, and then you can publish your audiobook through Audible. You're welcome. That's what we're here for. We're here to help, and hopefully you all will get those books out in audio, because there's a lot of people waiting for them. I promise you they are.
I wanted to add something to marketing too, because there's always that one thing that I forget. With TikTok, if you follow authors that write in the same categories as you do, same type of books, just follow them, see what kind of videos are getting the best reaction, and use the same hashtags they're using. And that makes a huge difference.
Also, narrators on TikTok. Let me just tell you, Natalie Nadas, whom I love, has done, she did the second audiobook that I ever produced, has just blown up on TikTok. She did a book for us and is getting ready to do the second book in the series, and she's got millions. Do you hear me? Like millions of followers, not just because she gets up there and talks about her audiobooks, but she does the craziest, like,
it's random and it's so funny.
Oh my gosh, they're hilarious. And so people follow her. So go and follow her on TikTok. I mean, I think I listen to TikTok one reason, because I like to go and see what she's talking about. And but she's just fantastic. She's a great performer, and she jumped right in with that. And also, I think Danielle had mentioned Clubhouse a little bit earlier. Don't forget about Clubhouse. It's very good for audio only content. If you want to have a chat with your narrator, perhaps they're on Clubhouse, and you want to invite listeners in to do like a listener party, or you guys are going to do a live read or something like that. Think about using Clubhouse and Discord. A lot of narrators use Discord. They're recording live on Discord talking about books. If you're going to partner with them, ask them if they would have a certain day that they're going to be on one of those platforms recording, and make sure you share the information. So make it a collaborative event. It doesn't have to, it doesn't cost you anything, except they're already doing the book, and it's free promotion for you. So I know it's a lot of different social media platforms out there, but don't knock Clubhouse or Discord. Will we be able to get your... Yes, I think it was at the end of the slide.
Yeah, it's at the end of it.
Oh, did we ever get to the...
No, not yet.
There it is. Speaking of the end of our slide, I'll just go... there's... it's not on that page. It's on the last.
Yeah, it should be the next one.
Okay, but we do want to give a special thank you to the Romance Genre Con, Morgan, Amy, and Megan for inviting us. Again, we met them through TJ London. She said, "I want to introduce you to some ladies who I know they're great." And we were all for it. Anytime we could talk about audiobooks, promoting that, then we're all for it. And then, as you see, special thanks to TJ London. These are people that we currently work with and use some of their information for our content. TJ London, Kaylee Loring, Nikki Sloan, Aaron Nicholas, Emma Wilder, Teddy Hamilton, Tara Langella, Patrick Zeller, Connor Crace, Stephanie Rose, Rachel LeBlanc, and Amy Deutschler for allowing us to use their material and samples. You can follow us. We're pretty much everywhere. So you'll see that on the next slide. And we don't sleep. We're always up somewhere.
And we're also going to host a giveaway for a coming soon video for your book. So to enter, just follow us, the Audio Flow and Elysian Nightfall Studios on social media, and hashtag. What was the hashtag, Jock? Jock came up with a hashtag.
Hashtag romance genre con audio. So somebody who types really fast will put that up there. Hashtag romance genre con audio. So you'll follow us and post that hashtag around. We will select a winner probably at the end of the month, just to give other people an opportunity to listen to this video. And you'll have a nice teaser trailer, compliments of Danielle. And I didn't see our contact information up there, but you can find us at I'm at the Audio Flow. That's everywhere. Danielle is at Elysian Nightfall Studios. Is it all together, Danielle?
Yeah, or even at Danielle Lanzarotta. It's not letting me post in the comments.
Yeah,
but,
I can't.
You know, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, I'm everywhere.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to go to, I'm on the Facebook page, so I'll go in as well and do some comments there, just so that we can see if we missed anything. But be sure that you follow us. We are always around. If you have any questions about anything, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us for a little bit. Oh, look, it's our old slide. It's making an appearance. There it is. Take a screenshot, everybody. I'm the only Jocqueline Protho out there, Jocqueline Protho. So if you see my name somewhere, you can just click on that. I did type some comments on the Facebook page, so if you click there, it will take you to any of my pages.
And I'm the only Danielle Lanzarotta with one L, so that's easy to find too.
Exactly. Okay, they have a little commercial. Make sure you guys come back tomorrow night for Elizabeth Essex. So she's going to be joining you guys tomorrow. So make sure you come back. This has been a very fun event. I had a great time chatting with you all. And that's all I have. Danielle, you get the last words.
All right. Just thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for having us.